Thanks for tuning in to your official webcast of St. Louis's fastest growing MMA website, knucklejunkies.com. Be sure to tune in with your co-hosts, Brett Auten, John Menke, and Dan O'Connor. That's KJ Live every Monday, 9 p.m.
All right, welcome to KJ Live. This is your host, Brett Auten, Knuckle Junkies editor. This is our 5th episode, and we are joined once again with Dan O'Connor. John Menke, for some of you, I'm sure will be devastated, but Mr. Menke will be unable to join us tonight, so you're kind of stuck with us too. Tonight we'll definitely have guests coming on. Jim Jenkins will be joining us, and if we get things lined up, local amateur, soon-to-be pro, Bo Kunz will be on the line here towards the end of the show. Well, Dan, just kind of checking in. How are things in your world? I know you've got a fight here on the horizon, and just how's life?
Training my ass off, sore as hell, getting all my guys ready for their fights. They have fights come up a little quicker than me. We have a lot of guys fighting this weekend, so just training with them, trying to get them better, work on their jiu-jitsu and striking and all the fun stuff with that. So can't complain, living the dream, you know.
Yeah, before we get too far into this, I just want to give a shout out to all you businesses out there. You know, whether you might be like an energy drink, or maybe even if you guys hawk a little protein powder or whatever it be, or maybe you sell fight gear and we can send it over to Dan. But this would be great. We'd love to get some sponsors on board, and we would talk about your products and how much we love them and whatnot, and that would kind of help keep things going, help keep this ship afloat, as it would be. This past weekend, coming off a big Memorial Day weekend, UFC always puts together a slam bam card for Memorial Day weekend, and UFC 160 heavyweights making a lot of noise. Junior Dos Santos versus Mark Hunt was a colossal fight. A lot of people really enjoyed that one, with Junior making the spectacular spinning heel kick to win that. And then, of course, Cain Velasquez making quick work of Bigfoot Silva. Dan, did you see any of those highlights or any of those fights?
I watched all those fights. I don't miss a UFC. I'm a fan before I'm a fighter. Teixeira fought. Glover Teixeira fought.
Yeah.
I mean, hype's behind him. Fought Tehuna, and great fight too. He ended up choking out Tehuna with just a beautiful. I mean, he jumped guard in a fight. You don't see that often. So, and he made it interesting when he jumped guard. It wasn't just a piss poor jiu-jitsu guy jumping guard to try and finish on the ground. Cain Velasquez, we were talking about it. He doesn't get a lot of love. That guy just demolishes people. When he fought Dos Santos, I was telling you guys I was at that fight, and it was the whole crowd went quiet when Dos Santos just landed that right behind the ear and hurt him. I don't think it'll happen again. But Dos Santos has great hands, but I don't see him beating Velasquez the way he did. I think Velasquez kind of looked past him a little too much, which you really can't do at that level. So, and I mean, Mark Hunt, he broke. I watched him break his foot when he threw that kick. He caught his toe and just caught the knee, and I knew he messed it up because he all of a sudden his movement was stifled, and I was like, well, that's pretty much the end of it. He's gonna get caught with some stuff. He's not gonna be able to get out of the way, and Dos Santos just perfectly moved the entire fight. One fight I'd like to see is Hunt versus Big Country. I think that'd be a good two big fat guys kind of fighting and throwing bombs on each other. So, but we'll see what happens with that.
Speaking of two big guys, I mean, it was just announced maybe an hour or so ago, but the War Master Josh Barnett will be taking on Frank Mir here soon. I don't know if it's 161 or it's one of the upcoming obviously UFC cards, which that sounds like a great fight. Two guys who've been around the block a few times and still pretty legit.
That's going to be an interesting fight. I didn't even hear about that, but yeah, I believe you. They that might be just a straight stand-up fight. I know Barnett has the catch wrestling and Mir has the jiu-jitsu. If that goes to the ground, that's going to really be something for the ages for people to We see what catch wrestling can do versus jiu-jitsu and who can throw what. I mean, Barnett really just dives on submissions more than jiu-jitsu guys do. So he's an impressive guy. I love watching Barnett fight because he does go for a lot of the catch wrestling style stuff. So really interesting matchup there.
Yeah, I like both those guys, and you know, like I said, you know, a lot of times you see these great grapplers when they're kind of matched up, and it ends up kind of being a boxing match, and I hope that's not the case with these two. And then we were kind of talking about you know off mic or whatnot. You know, can you be, you know, speaking of Kane, and you know, can you be the heavyweight champion of the world and be underrated? And I was talking, you know, how he never gets much love, you know, with all this pound for pound or super fight talk, whether it be John Jones or Anderson Silva. And Dan, you kind of brought up a point on that. And just kind of what do you think about all that?
Well, my theory is at heavyweight, you can knock people out, but you better be freaking awesome, because if you took all those fighters and you put them at the same weight, who do you think would win what fight? Same strength. I mean, take their strength down to that weight class, take their speed down to that weight class. I mean, where would they be? Would Kane at 185 pounds beat Anderson Silva? Could he beat Jose Aldo if Aldo had put on the size and had the size? In theory, if you think about it in theory, I don't think he is. He's very good. He should be in the top 10, but I don't know. I don't think he should be anywhere near the top compared to a lot of the guys, a lot of lower weights if they were all in the same, everything was even. I don't think he would be in the top 5. Even though I'm a Kane fan, I just don't really think he would be.
I guess that's one thing kind of going to his advantage when you talk about. I mean, he's not one of these hulking Brock Lesnar or even Bigfoot Silva guy. I mean, I would assume that Kane and John Jones are probably, you know, close to the same weight. You know, whether it be off, you know, when they're off season or off, you know, off training or whatnot.
I really think John Jones wouldn't take that fight. I think he would do good in it, but I think he's still young. He either is going to have a chip on his shoulder, or he's going to just not really do the super fights that everybody wants to see. I hope we see a Silva versus him fight, because that'd be an interesting way Silva fights in and out movement. I think that's going to really screw John Jones's spinning elbows and all that stuff. And once it goes to the ground, you saw Vitor almost break off John Jones's arm. And Silva's just as good and will strike to go for the submission. So,
yeah, I think that fight could happen. I think it could happen, you know, this year. I mean, all pending on, you know, how Chris Weidman does. But, you know, everybody, you know, likes to think that, you know, if the New York ban gets lifted and MMA is you know, sanctioned and ready to go in New York, Madison Square Garden, not a too shabby place to have John Jones versus Anderson Silva.
I think every fighter wants to fight in Madison Square Garden, and I don't care. You put them across the ring with God, and they would go and fight in Madison Square Garden, because, I mean, anybody that grew up watching fights, boxing or whatever, when it went to Madison Square Garden, you were enthralled, and just really the whole atmosphere and the background behind Madison Square Garden just kind of sucked you into the fights. So,
but I guess it looks like you know, back to Kane, you know, looks like it'll be, you know, probably Kane and Junior Dos Santos part 3, you know.
Yeah, and it deserves to be done. I mean, first round, Dos Santos knocks him out, and I mean, second round, Kane takes it. I mean, you never know how that's going to go. And I mean, Dos Santos has been looking better and better coming up. I mean, he's fought tough guys and he's finishing tough guys. Him knocking out Mark Hunt with a spinning back kick. I mean, and he hit him with a calf. Hit him with a spinning calf and knocked him out. I mean, how did he land that and knock somebody out? I mean, anybody that's trained or watched, you think that's the more cushiony part of your leg, and he landed and hurt him. So it's interesting to see what he can pull off.
What gets me about Junior is, I mean, and I've seen somebody maybe tweet it before or something, but I mean, there's no fighter that goes from like fierce to lovable in a matter of seconds. You know, you see him inside the cage and he looks like, you know, he's ready to suck your heart out. And then you see him in those post-fight interviews and he just seems like the most, my wife is just enamored with him. He just seems he's like just the most lovable kind of guy.
It switches. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, and he really can turn it off quick. And he doesn't look. I mean, if you'd leave your kids with him. He's one of those guys you wouldn't be scared to. I mean, he kind of looks like Sloth from the Goonies a little bit with that ear. But I mean, he does seem like a nice guy, and seems like a guy that you could go and hang out with. I'm sure he'd want to take you to church or something. But he seems like a nice guy when he talks. And I mean, there's not a lot of bad blood. There's not a lot of bad reputation behind him, So.
What did you think of seeing a big guy throw off that spinning heel kick?
It was interesting. Wasn't the most technical thing in the world,
right?
But he threw it, and he said he's never really thrown it before. He played with it a little bit, but he's never thrown it in a fight. Or said if I remember, he didn't throw it a lot in practice, or hadn't thrown it in practice. He kind of just went for it. And with Hunt breaking his toe, he was kind of standing there like a giant Samoan heavy bag. So Santos, who has great movement, can throw those weird combinations, weird kicks, and just light them up and move. And he had a couple times where he was in trouble, but he used his movement. Hunt couldn't chase him down like he chases everybody else down. So, I mean, that's kind of where I think he screwed himself. I remember Joe Rogan screaming, "I wish I'd seen him throw more kicks." And I was like, well, I watched him put his toe on the knee. He probably broke his toe. That sucks if you ever had that happen. Kicking elbows and kicking knees will be the end of you quick in training. So you got to watch that shit.
As a fighter, what did you kind of think of Junior's decision? I mean, he decided to go for it in that third and final round. The fight was arguably in the bag, so to speak, and he could have easily maybe gotten a takedown and ate some clock out, but he stood right in the pocket and went for the big finish and got it.
Those are the kind of fighters I love. They come to finish. They come to put on a show. Nobody wants to see guys take them down, hold them down for 3 rounds, or just run away for the last round. That'll drive you nuts quick. And it's not going to win you any bonuses. You just running away from a guy for the 3rd round, the crowd's going to remember that last round. So if you have 2 rounds in the bag, let's say it's a 10-8 round, you can screw around that 3rd round and avoid it. You better go for broke and still try and finish to some degree, or at least try and land punches. You've seen guys run away and try and finish, and I mean, Dana White goes nuts about it when they don't fight. You're paid to fight. You pick this as a profession. You better come in to always try and finish and put on a show and make the crowd happy, make them cheer. If you're not a top level, if you're not a guy that the fans love to watch fight, you're not going to sell pay-per-view. You're not going to make money. So you should always go to finish. Whether 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round, I don't care. You go to finish the guy, knock him out, submit him, what have you.
So you think it's worth that to sacrifice a possible loss to?
I've seen every fighter I've seen that is high level is going to finish. They don't come to I want to just point. I don't want to lose. They don't come to lose. They don't come to not lose. They come to knock the guy out and destroy him. I saw that this weekend. I saw it on both regards. I saw it on both sides. Guys that came and didn't fight. They came to just not get knocked out, not get hit, so it looked pretty in the morning. You should not care how you look. There's old saying, never fight an ugly guy. He has nothing to lose. So you should not care if you're a fighter, if you're missing teeth or broken noses or cuts on your eye. Don't give a shit. Go in there, get punched, try and finish the guy. Go in there to bang.
Well, speaking of a guy who kind of embraced that philosophy, the big news after UFC 160 in the post-fight press conference, Dana White announced Forrest Griffin's retirement from fighting. I guess maybe not a shocker of a news item, but just kind of your thoughts. You've been a fan of this sport a lot longer than I have, and just can you just kind of touch on Forrest and what his fight with Stephan Bonner and the original Ultimate Fighter, and just kind of his role in making this sport branch out and explode?
I'll tell you, probably 90% of the fighters you see today would not be fighting if it wasn't for Forrest Griffin. He made the show. He made it where it is now. UFC was shit I mean, nobody was watching it. Nobody was ordering it. You weren't going to pay $40. You remember in the first couple of UFCs where Hoist Gracie rolled around with a guy with a gi on, and nobody wanted to watch that. Forrest came out and threw down, and they put on a rock'em sock'em beatdown that, I mean, it inspired me to do fighting. I remember watching it and kept saying, I can do that. I can do that. And finally somebody dared me to do it. And that's how I got into it. Forrest has always been a fan favorite. He's been probably my favorite fighter. He's not the most technical guy. He's very goofy. He writes books, great books, funny books.
Yeah.
And people just love that guy. Him leaving is really the end of an era. Him and Bonner both putting on that first fight, that bloody war they put on, and them both retiring this year. I mean, my heart sank when I heard it, even though it is time for him to retire.
Right.
He's going to have a place in the UFC no matter what, because he built that motherfucker. He put on the shows that really brought the fans. So, and everybody wanted to see him. I remember he beat Quentin Rampage Jackson on my birthday, and I couldn't have been happier. I was going nuts in a bar. I know me being in a bar is shocking, but I lost it. I was so happy. I was a fan of Quentin, and he came in, and I just loved to see it. So he was that kind of guy that you just wanted to see. He was the underdog you wanted to see win. So,
you know, he kind of carried this badge of kind of just like what kind of you mentioned, kind of an underdog, kind of a whatever scrapper / brawler type of guy. But I mean, there's a lot more to him than just that. I mean, he had some talent, he had some skill, correct?
He was skilled. If you watched all his fights, he's been knocked out, he's been beaten down, but he wasn't trying to. He was fighting. He was going to hurt people. He never danced around and didn't throw punches. He came in to land shots and work his game plan. Smart. I mean, I don't know if he's a smart guy or he's just very well versed on the microphone. But I mean, I've never met him and I haven't sat down and had beers with him. But the guy is. He was definitely an underdog where he wasn't born with a physical ability that everybody else, that a lot of the UFC fighters are born with. He had to work for it. And I think you could see that he wasn't just jacked, shredded,
Right.
Didn't look like he's been playing sports his entire life. Can't do backflips, I would bet. Can't jump off the cage and kick people on the head. He just comes in and throws punches and tries to hurt somebody with a shot or leg kick them until they can't walk or submit them. And he showed his emotion on his face. I think that was the big thing that everybody loved. He didn't get up and like brush his
Right.
shoulders off and walk away. He would go nuts when he won because he was so happy that I really do believe that he didn't know if he was going to win. He was just going in there to throw down. I remember him fighting Shogun. Nobody thought he was going to beat Shogun.
Right.
Quentin, nobody thought he was going to beat Quentin, and he won. So he was one of those guys that he was the underdog. He's like the little engine that could, if you will. Nobody thought he was going to be able to pull it off, and he just kept going. So.
And he's great on Twitter. If anybody doesn't follow Forrest on Twitter, I would recommend it highly. He is one of the few fighters on your Twitter feed that when he pops up, he's actually got something pretty clever, pretty humorous to say, other than grinding. You know.
He's a tough. I mean, I'm reading. You're crazy that Couture and Liddell made the UFC. No, they were the high-level guys in the UFC, but Dana White will tell you when the Ultimate Fighter, that fight went on, they were make or break on that fight. He said it 100 times that Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin were about to go under, and Liddell and Couture were in the UFC when that happened, and nobody knew who the fuck they were. Bonner and Forrest really made the UFC with that fight where everybody called their friends to come and watch it. And Dana White says, he goes, that was the moment we knew we had something. So,
well, yeah, let's kind of maybe shift a little bit locally, kind of look ahead. We got a big weekend on the amateur side. You know, Patrick Smith with the cage champs out in Sullivan is going to throw together another card out there. You know, Patrick's one of the nicest guys, one of the best promoters around. Haven't heard much about the card yet, so can't really talk too much about that. And then there's Proving Grounds returning to South Broadway Athletic Club, and I believe they're having their tournament still continuing, if that's correct.
I know a few of the burger guys. I haven't seen the entire card either. I can only talk about what I know. I know we have 2 burger guys on the Pat Smith card. Big Corey, BJ Smith's brother, is fighting on that card. Guys put in a lot of work. He came in as just a big old ball of love. He's a very funny guy, big guy. He's put in the work to fight. I've watched him tear people up, and people are going to be surprised that he's as athletic as he is. We also have Tommy Stair on that card, and BJ's fighting on that card too, correct?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see announcers for another show and promoters for another show fight. I sparred BJ about a week ago, and I was kind of impressed with him. He can take a punch, he can throw. He's going to surprise people. I think the kid, if the kid actually shows, I think BJ's going to mess him up pretty good. Corey, I see him I don't want to give away his game plan, but I see him winning that fight pretty quick. I don't think that this guy's going to be ready for some of the stuff that he's going to be able to do. And then Proving Grounds, I will be cornering in that fight. I have Justin Langford, my cousin, who I got into this sport. I knew he would be fantastic at. He's going to be in the finals, semifinals, and he's fighting. It's going to be a good fight. He's looking better than ever. So it's going to be all those fights. I'm kind of torn. I want to see both. I want to see both fights, but I got to go with family, so I'm going to be cornering him.
So who's he fighting in the tournament?
I cannot remember the guy's name. Because they keep changing people on him. He was supposed to fight Montvell at one point, then he was supposed to fight Joe Roy, and then I am not. Oh, excuse me, DeMarco Montgomery is fighting. So it's going to be an interesting one. And then I think,
is Montvell still fighting on that?
I believe I'm not sure if Montvell's fighting on this card, but I believe he's fighting Joe Roy again, and I know they had Fight of the Year last year. If that's right, or something like that.
Yeah, Joe. Producer extraordinaire Matt Frazier chiming in with Joe Roy is fighting Prater.
Joe Roy's fighting Prater. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so and then I'm guessing Langford versus Prater in the finals is my bet. So it'll be an interesting fight, and then I'm hoping I can get Justin to drop a weight class because he's not a giant 55er. So.
Well, and you were at cage fighting events, right? Last weekend.
They had some badass fights. Did you see those fights or hear about the?
I read about it obviously at knucklejunkies.com, but
they had probably one of the better amateur cards I've ever seen. Not a lot of fights went to the decision. A lot of finishes. I actually cornered one guy at that took a fight on like 3 weeks' notice. Never fought before. He won first round TKO out of Extreme Krav Maga, Kyle Inman. They had a guy I'm really watching. What the fuck is his name? He's out of Carlisle Lake. What the fuck? He's very athletic kid. Quentin Garrison. He fought and threw a spinning back fist and just busted his guy up with it. And to give that guy credit, he kept fighting and kept trying to win. And at certain points, I thought he was going to come back, but his nose was, it looked like a faucet got turned on. Probably the bloodiest amateur fight I've ever seen. And Quentin, who's very athletic, throws a lot of spinning stuff, went to throw a spinning back fist and actually landed nose to the elbow to the nose, and non-intentional. Was the guy stepped in? You can't point him for it because it was supposed to be the fist and was the other guy's fault, but just opened that guy's nose up and he was fighting through. There was a lot of great ones. Clay Mitchell versus Bo Kunz, Tyler Flores. The Carlisle Lake guys came to fight, and it was a split room. Half Illinois, half Missouri, and you could just feel the animosity in the room. Wow. So they were not in love with the Missouri fighters. I believe they went like 1-5. Most of those guys put on a phenomenal show. I think if you add a better jiu-jitsu coach to that gym and maybe a better boxing coach, because they throw a lot of kicks, at least a couple of the guys throw a lot of taekwondo-y style kicks, they're going to be a great gym eventually. As of right now, I think they went 1 for 4 or something, 1 for 5. But they came and fought. Clay Mitchell versus Bo Kunz was a great fight. Bo did not do what he usually does. He didn't come out and he wasn't as confident. And I found out right afterwards why he wasn't confident, but he fought to not lose as opposed to fight to finish the guy in the first round or go to knock the guy or cut the guy or hurt the guy. So I'd like to see Bo get back to that because I'm a fan of Bo Kunz, even though he's an amateur. But now he's moving on. He usually goes to try and destroy people. And he choked Clay Mitchell unconscious in the 3rd round. So bad choke out too. Kind of scared me a little bit because Clay was probably unconscious for up to 10 seconds being choked still. Maybe a little less, but it was long enough where I was screaming out, jumping out of my seat, which doesn't happen often. So.
Well, let's bring on somebody who knows a little bit about last Friday's fights and also upcoming fights. We're going to have promoter Jim Jenkins climb aboard.
Hello.
Jim Jenkins.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, how's it going? This is Brett Auten with knucklejunkies.com. You're on KJ Live with Dan O'Connor. We were just talking about last weekend's fights.
Yeah, it was a good time. Exciting fights.
Yeah, Dan said it was one of the best amateur cards he's seen in a while, and was talking a lot about the guys from Carlisle Lake and as well as the local guys.
Yeah, I heard it was that from a couple of different people. Sid G said the same thing, and a few other people I really respect. I don't get to see the entire fights. That night I'm running around playing host and just trying to take care of everything, and I get to catch most of it. But after 60 shows, I hate to tell you that it's hard for me to say which were the better ones overall. They kind of run together, but it was a special night. The fighters, I can tell you, every single one of them really brought it. They left nothing in the locker room. They tried their hardest. I got lucky. The matches really worked out as good as I could have hoped. No one really got hurt. We kept hearing it was the bloodiest fight they had ever seen, the Quentin Garrison and Murphy fight, Alex Murphy. But it was really, the cut wasn't that bad. It was just it started in the first round and kept going. And so nobody got majorly hurt, and that's always a blessing to be able to bring it like they did everybody that night, and no one got injured. So, yeah, it's a great night.
How often can you be lucky, though?
Don't ask me about fights, man. I can talk all night about it.
Now, we know a lot about these, some of the local guys are on there, but how did you stumble onto these guys from Carlisle? And Dan was saying, they had lots of potential over there. Could maybe use a jiu-jitsu coach or two and maybe a boxing coach.
They're a little ways out there. I mean, Carlisle Lake is a lot like some of the other rural places. They're kind of at a crossroads. They've been fighting on my show for a long time. There was one gym out there at first, and then Clay went his own way and merged up with some other folks and opened a second gym in that area. Guys like Rob Miller and Brad Rice and Billy Croup and Clay Mitchell and all those guys have been fighting on my card for a number of years now. I've worked real hard with that area, and I love how those guys don't even like to fight in their area at all. They only come and fight on our events. That's by their design. Even though they bring a huge crowd and other promoters keep calling them regularly, they have been a good loyal group to our promotion. I've worked real hard to match them fairly because they are guys that don't see the kind of cross training that we do in our area. They don't get to get the benefits of going to several gyms like we do here. We've got a lot of high level gyms. Luigi Ferraviante did go out there and do a seminar out there in Carlisle Lake at Clay Mitchell's place, Generations. So we try, and I know at different times some of those guys have come down here and worked with him with Jay D'Amato, some other people. So we've tried to help them get some extra training when we can, because we love the fact that they do everything they can to grow. Good, tough guys. Clay Mitchell fought his heart out on that one. My thought on that is that Clay Mitchell is Bo Kunz before Bo went to St. Charles MMA, and so it was a great fight.
Clay, I've met Clay. He's a nice guy. I was kind of surprised about his ring etiquette. He not wanting to touch Bo's hands and kind of mean mugging. That was I know that was kind of a play up for his group of people. I mean, he bought a party bus of people to that fight. But I know a lot of the Missouri guys are really pissed off about the not touching gloves and the kind of mean mugging back and forth between the guys. The only guy touched gloves once. I don't agree with not touching gloves, but I don't know if there was bad blood in the beginning between Bo and Clay or why they didn't do it. I know Bo was trying to, and Clay kind of shrugged him off. I mean, he didn't do anything like flip him off or anything, but he did not want to touch gloves.
I didn't get to see that part of it. It was, that's one of the small details I missed, evidently. It's something I would talk to Clay about. I will talk to him, as I will talk to anybody, is that, you guys can even, see, I get asked a lot, Danny, to put on, grudge matches. This guy wants to fight that guy because he's got a beef with him. I don't make those fights. They're not good for our sport. They're not about, rarely about advancing your skills. So I don't do those. There was a little bit of trash talk, and they both got an interview on your website, Knuckle Junkies, and sometimes you put a mic in front of a young guy or a guy who hasn't been in the spotlight a lot, and they can say something, more than they intend to. Danny, you wouldn't know about that, and so I think that maybe it got out of hand a tiny bit, and you've got two ravenous crowds. I mean, you've got 200 people from Carlisle Lake and 200 people that are here for Bo, and that know these guys, and that we don't get to see all the postings that happen on Facebook and everything else between their fans, and all the little comments. And, the fighters rarely have anything to do with it, but I'll talk to Clay, and he's a good guy. He should have touched gloves. Maybe he thought he had a reason, but I agree with you, Danny. There's really no reason not to touch gloves, because I don't do grudge matches on my events, so it's just a fight.
I was kind of surprised about it because I met Clay Mitchell, and nicest guy in the world. I was kind of surprised that I don't know what the background is between it, so I was kind of surprised he didn't want to touch gloves. I mean, he's a nice guy. I had no problems with him. Very nice to me, very cordial, and I didn't think he had a mean bone in his body when I met him. And I was kind of surprised by that. And I know a lot of people were pissed off about it. So,
well, it probably wasn't much of anything other than something in the moment, and the crowd and us can all speculate and focus on that one little moment, which might have been a lapse or a pissed off moment or whatever it was. But the celebration really is, we've seen both those guys fight several times, and they both have really grown, and they put on a hell of a show for us the other night. And, we'll talk to them about, everybody has a little lapse of moment, and that probably shouldn't be the biggest focus. And I know Clay would be the first one to say he got caught up in the moment, probably, because they both had a bunch of respect for each other. I know Bo said, Clay got up after the third round chokeout and said, "I told you I wasn't going to tap." And Bo said he's just a stubborn son of a bitch, and he wouldn't. So
it was kind of a nervous moment when he was waking up. He was asleep a little longer than he should have been because he was being choked a little longer than he should have been. I mean, that's something where that can happen. So that's why you do tap out. Glad he's not hurt at all. But I mean, when you don't tap out, sometimes you're going to get choked a little longer. And I mean, that's one of those fears when you get put in those chokes and why you should tap out. I mean, respect to him for not tapping out, but I've seen guys shit their pants and piss their pants being choked unconscious and seizure when they wake up. So that's one of my fears. I don't know if he's ever seen it, but I get caught in a deep choke and it's something where I know I'm not getting out, and I tried everything. You will see me tap because my biggest fear is shitting my pants in front of everybody I know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, that's why you tap out. I mean, it's like anything else that, you know, if you practice until you get choked out all the time or spar until you get knocked silly every time, eventually it's easier to choke you out and knock you silly because your brain is, you know, very protective. And that's one of the benefits we have in this area, to having top-level coaches, where you get to a level like that where Clay is one of the top 3 guys in his gym, you know, with some other instruction and probably different disciplines. So, you know, they could use that big brother and a little bit of big brotherly advice from guys in our area to smaller rural areas like that, of guys that really work hard and do the best with the tools they have there, is always good. You know, that's the fellowship of the sport, and that's the part that we like.
Well, look, moving ahead here, obviously June 22nd is going to be around the corner. I was talking to, I had my nephew from Southern Illinois was
Hey, Brett, can I interrupt you for a minute?
You bet.
I'm sorry. I just want to go back and give real props to somebody else in that fight show that night.
Okay.
And it's probably the best 2 first-timers I've ever seen in a fight was Cody Wiley and Demetrius Cannon, the second fight of the night.
Mm-hmm.
They showed a lot of skill. There was a few gas issues that happened in that first-time fight, but they went to the decision. I swear Cannon had him out on his feet like twice, and Wiley came right back and won the decision. It was just an incredible fight. Those kids fought to absolute exhaustion and showed good skill, tremendous heart, and I've probably seen 800 fight. I couldn't tell you how many matches I've matched now, and that's the best that I remember for 2 first-timers ever in a fight. Partly because it went all the way, but it really was. And I think Cody Wiley out of Frank Fisher's place and Demetrius Cannon out of Clay Mitchell's place deserve a big hats off. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you know, that was an amazing fight. Probably, if not for Bo and Clay, that was fight of the night.
Yeah.
That's a pretty rare thing for first-time guys. I couldn't imagine.
Oh, right. And that's why I wanted to give them a little tip there.
It was a great fight. We were the next fight, I believe, and I was watching that, and those guys were throwing down. Frank Fisher's gym was one of the guys.
Yeah, Cody Wiley. He'd done a little bit of kickboxing when he was younger, but he just turned 18, and that was his first MMA fight. The other kid, it was his first fight completely. Real athletic. Demetrius Cannon, I think, maybe ran out of a little gas after the first round, but Cody pressed him and kept the pressure on him, and that helps you run you out of gas. So they just did it was a really good fight, and thanks for stopping for a minute. I'm all about June 22nd now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new venue for you, right? And
it is. We're excited just to, St. Louis is challenged on venues. You either got places that hold 500 or 5,000 and cost a fortune. And we're still, people don't understand that we're still a very fragile market here for professional MMA. If 1 or 2 promoters goes away in this area, we really have almost nothing. So, it's really pretty fragile, and there's no one really locked into other than Shamrock at certain casinos. There's really venue problems in St. Louis. And so I'm extremely happy to find the St. Louis Sports Center. It's a big place. It's accommodating to what we want to do. They're real excited about doing it. I think we can put 2,000 people in there. I've never done a bigger event. I've never done this many pro fights. Nobody's doing 8 pro fights that I know of in our area, a full fight card. And if we can fill the house, we'll do it 4 times a year, and that'd be just like us doing 8 of the pro-ams we had been doing in the past with 4 or 5 fights. So this is a great venue. It's centrally located. It's a little bit off the main street. It'll be easy to find. We're going to have free shuttle parking. There'll be valet parking for the big wheels. And then one of the interesting things that you can't get into casinos, but you can here if you're under 21 because it's an all ages show.
Right.
So I think we're going to have a good advantage in bringing a lot of people that can't get into the casinos that want to come enjoy MMA.
Well, no, I've kind of gone on record. You know, I'm not the most amateur kind of guy, but one fight on that, you know, Fierce Taylor and Charles Johnson, when that was announced, that my ears and eyes definitely perked, and looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's going to be a great fight. I think I may be incorrect on this, but I'm close. I don't have my notes in front of me, but I believe Fierce is 17-3 and Charles is like 12-0. Outstanding athletes. And it's just a no-brainer to put those two together. We were originally announced it as a Midwest title fight, but when I checked with MMA Sport Federation, they really only want to do U.S. titles and world titles for amateurs. As we're going to be setting up a national tournament next year, so that's really the direction they're going. And once I told them about these two guys, they said that they were worthy, and we'll put them on for the U.S. Amateur National Title.
This be a nice step up for Charles as far as competition.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He won our gateway to the top tournament last year, and
okay.
He had some tough competition. He stepped in the 4-man tournament and won it at 35. And I think if he was to turn pro, he'd be a 25. So I think he could very easily be the best 25er and 35er in the state. It's quite possible, and even farther out there. You know, there's Danny might be able to tell you, but I think Charles could give some of the pros in the Midwest at 125 real fits. He's an athletic guy, very athletic.
He's a tough. I've been watching him. I watch a lot of the guys that are coming up near that weight. Fierce, Charles. And he's definitely one of the top guys. He'd be an interesting guy down the road when he goes pro, which shouldn't be much more with his record. That would fight at 25, work his way up, see who he's gonna get to. He could definitely go somewhere and get a big fight after maybe 5 or 6 wins, because he is very tough and he comes to fight. Goes to finish people. I watched him fight teammates, and I watched him fight a lot of other guys, and the kid's he's a monster. He's going to hurt people, and he's going to finish. And you can tell he's been fighting for a long time, whether it be in the ring or out of the ring, because he has that killer instinct that not a lot of fighters have.
Yeah. Hey, I see some of the notes on the side. I don't want to be the guy spreading wrong information. Someone put on there you can't go to the casino shows and be under 21. I don't know. Maybe I was wrong. So if that's the case, then it's in your chat room. But anyway, yeah, Charles and Fierce has fought everybody. You know, I mean, we all remember his fights with Damian Newman, and those were great fights. So it's it's going to be a great fight. You know, who knows when they're going to go pro? I know Charles still has a couple years of college. He runs track, so I don't see him going pro anytime soon. Fierce, he's liable to go pro after this fight or sometime this year. So, you know, that's going to be a great fight. It could headline anything around town, that's for sure, I think, yeah. And to have it be the top of our undercard, I'm excited. It's almost going to be 2 shows. You know, we're going to do a prelim from 5 to 6:30, and then we're going to do the 8 pro, which will be 6 amateur fights, capping off with that fight we just spoke of, and then we're going to do 8 pro fights starting at 7. Capping off with a U.S. title fight between Luigi Ferviante and Setherly.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that pro card, I mean, there's at least 3 of those fights that come to mind that could be headline main event fights. You know.
Here, I'll ask you, Brett. I'll interview you, buddy.
You know.
Tell me which of these won't be a great fight. I mean, I got a feeling that, looking at this card, that all of these pro fights have a chance. You know, I mean, I start with the first one and think about Kyle Walker and Jake Bueller, and I'm thinking, man, fireworks. That's just a great fight. And then, you know, where do you go? You got heavyweights after that. You got Danny and Seth Basler, which are two guys that really bring the fight, and have a lot of talent. Donovan and Johan Slager at 35 should be a very interesting matched fight. Johan's had a stumble and a mental block last time, but we've seen Yogi fight up and down both mentally, and I think he sees where he was at, and he's going to come to fight, and he's got something to prove on this one. And Adam Donovan is just crazy strong. That guy is crazy strong. So then you got, and then of course, now there is one scratch off there. We had a 85-pound fight that's a scratch between Fessy and Coates, and will be replaced with another bout. But then you get to Eric Irving and Adam Ward. We all saw Adam Ward fight here on our last pro show. That's going to be a great fight. Yeah, and then of course none of us can hardly wait to see what Chris can do if he can get in there with a guy like Luigi and how he'll fare, and what Luigi still has to bring to the table, because he sure proved in California he's not done recently with a 42-second stoppage.
Well, and there's Jimmy Donahue and Sal Woods too, correct?
Oh my gosh, and Sal's dropping to 55 for that, as he should be. If you're on Facebook, you see him doing the diet. He's taking pictures of his food.
Yeah.
I've been seeing that the last couple of days, and those two guys are going to be two big fan favorites, two great guys. Most everybody in St. Louis loves the way they both fight and the kind of guys they are. So, and hell, they like each other a great deal, but they know what it's like, and they're ready to go fight.
Yeah, Jimmy's a tall, rangy lightweight,
Well, Sal's tall too, though. Sal's taller than people think about him. I mean, I'm 5'10", 5'10.5", and Sal's got to be 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
They're very close. I mean, he's taller than you think.
It'll
be a good fight.
And talking backpedal a little bit to Eric Irvin and Adam Ward, Eric, he seems to be, I can't, for lack of a better term, he seems to fly under the radar a little bit. So people seem to forget about Eric and just how good and talented he is, when we start talking about local pros and whatnot.
Well, yeah, you're talking about a lightweight fight, 155 pounds, and if those that remember a couple years ago, I remember having Eric on our old ground and pound show, and Eric was 10-1 as an amateur at 185 pounds. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I don't know how tall he is, but he's ungodly strong.
Yeah.
And a great wrestling background, a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, trains super hard. He's a hard worker, and he does fly under the radar. I think if you go look at his official record, it says 5-2, but he's the first one to tell you 5-3 because he lost on a unsanctioned fight. He's a humble guy. I think his only loss at this weight is to Charlie Brennerman.
Yeah.
So he's never lost at 55. He had 2 losses at a higher weight. Zach Freeman talks about him and says, hey, them two are a great fight every day of the week, when they spar together. So I think Eric flies under the radar. I think he's right on the cusp. The only thing that hurt him is getting those 2 early losses at a higher weight. If he didn't have those, he'd be 5-1 with only a loss to a multiple UFC vet.
Eric's an awesome guy and a very tough guy. He's another guy that goes and he's always trying to hurt people and knock them out. He has some great highlight reel finishes. He fought on your show when you were at the casino, knocked the guy out with the knee, just beautiful knee. The guy's tough. He's gonna have a long, good career if he can just keep fighting and keep training the way he's been training. He's a tough guy, really nice. And I mean, he goes and he moves around, trains with different gyms, mainly a destruction guy, but comes to Rogers Gym a lot from what I hear, and does work with a lot of different guys. And he's going to be a force to be reckoned with at 55. So.
You know what? I got to correct myself. I forgot all about it. Eric did lose a split decision loss 2 years ago in July on Right Fights on our SFL 4 fight.
I was at that.
He lost to Glosser, and a lot of people thought he won. A lot of people thought Glosser won. That was the fight of the night. It was an incredible night. So I forgot he did have one of his losses at that. And but no, Eric is really under the radar and right there, no doubt about it. I like Eric. Last time he fought in July, I think he took that money and put a down payment on 5 acres of land. He's a country boy, so I got to ask him what he's going to buy with his if he wins with his win money this time.
Hey Jim, I get a lot of people asking me to get your take on who do you think is going to win, but that's not fair for a promoter, is it?
No, I mean I can tell you what I hear out there, and I don't really make predictions. This is a crazy business. I tend to be friends with most everybody. Right now, we try and help these guys in this area a lot too. I mean, and as they help our promotion too. But there's guys that are looking for outside management and things like that, and I've made some connections throughout, the country. And Eric's one that is changing management, and I'm going to steer him towards somebody that I believe is a really good fit for him and is going to help him. And so we do a lot of different stuff for different guys. Even, we make connections. You become friends with them, right? I mean,
oh, yeah.
You see them all the time. They're likable guys, most of them. And so I hate to pick, but I'm probably put more of my friends against each other than anybody else I know. That's for sure. It's kind of a weird business. You pit your friends against each other for fighting.
Well, you can talk on people's strengths, just not predict. So Luigi versus Heatherly, what are the strengths for Luigi? What are the strengths for Heatherly? What are the weaknesses for the guys?
Well, I've only recently seen it. I didn't get to see a lot of Stumped Chris Heatherly's amateur fights, but he came in with a huge pedigree for wrestling from what we've heard. And I know his early fights were all about stand and bang and head kicks. He made his pro debut on a show that I was part of last year. And, Chris has got a ton of heart. He's that tweener. People, keep trying to tell him to go to 55. He's happy at 70. He fought amateur, at 85? He's a strong kid. He's incredibly strong. He's a fast learner. He's picked up his jiu-jitsu to go with his wrestling and merged it really, what seems to me, pretty quickly. He goes to a lot of gyms and trains and gets a lot of different instruction. So I think, and he's hungry. Chris is really hungry, and he's a guy who's been very vocal throughout the community about he wants his shot. He wants to fight the big fight and go to the big show. Now, Luigi moved here, a year and a half or so ago, and I think somewhere about that, maybe 2. And Luigi's, he just got back to the ring in California with a quick 42-second knockout at 85. He had fought in the UFC at 70, and 85 has been his weight a lot lately. I think Luigi's not as shot as people think. They tend to look at records. He lost 3 in a row before his fight in California, right? But nobody's looking at who he lost to, I think. He lost to the big Russian M1 global champion at 85. He went to decision. He lost to Paul Daly, went to the decision. Paul Daly's an incredible fighter. And he lost to Joe Durkison, who's had, about 1 million fights, Danny? So, I mean, that guy's tough. And those were all at 85 and all went to decision. He's going back to 70 to his original weight. And I think the guy's got a ton left in the tank. He's going to be healthy this time. He's got the experience. He's fought guys all over the world. He's a BJJ black belt. He's got good Muay Thai. Chris has probably got the wrestling advantage by far and the youth. But, I don't think Luigi's taken as many miles on him as his opponents are hoping,
Yeah,
this is a perfect fight.
I think a lot of people are, think that maybe, Chris's only hope is to keep it on the feet. You get down on the ground with a black belt and the kind of black belt that Luigi has, that could be a recipe for disaster.
Well, I don't know what Chris's plan is going to be. I mean, I know that his camp is confident in the fight, and they feel like he's got a a real chance to do this. They know Luigi's tough. They know he's a big test. But I think Steve Berger and the rest of his coaches think that Chris is ready for this test, and they should be a better assessor of that than I will be, because they see him every day and put him through the paces. So they feel like his wrestling and his quick learning of jiu-jitsu is going to help him. Chris rolls with black belts too. He's not. A black belt won't be new to Chris, and rolling with him. And Luigi brings a few different things too, though. I think he's built like Chris. He's short like Chris is. He's strong like Chris. It's not your typical tall guy against a short guy, and so who's going to be the stronger one? I don't know. Chris has really crazy strength from what I hear.
Yeah.
But Luigi's just, he's fought everybody. How do you take that away from a guy? And his UFC record, I believe, is what, 4-5? That's a good UFC record.
Yeah.
And that's fighting top tough guys.
Nobody's looking past Luigi for sure. If Stump is,
no.
This isn't gonna be a usual Stump fight, a walk in, kick the guy in the head, and walk out kind of fight. He knows it's gonna be a tough fight. When it comes to jiu-jitsu, remember this is MMA. The Gracie said it best: take a black belt, punch him in the face once, he's a brown belt. Keep doing it until he forgets how to do jiu-jitsu, pretty much. I don't know if Heatherly comes training. Luigi has such a seasoned record. He's a veteran. It's going to be, if Heatherly beats him in dominating fashion, I don't see him not getting a phone call. He's asked for the fights. He doesn't want to keep fighting forever if he's just fighting on local shows, for sure. I've talked to him many times. He trains the same gym I train at. I do think he's going to pull it off, but how he's going to do it, I don't think it's going to be a finished fight. I think it's going to go to the judges, in my opinion. Not that he can't do it, but if I were a betting man, I would probably put it on a decision for Heatherly. I'm not looking past Luigi either, because Luigi can win a fight anywhere.
And I don't pick, but if I'm going to go by what I consider smart, picking on this fight, if you told me it was going to decision, then I'd have to put my money the other way, because I'm going to go with the experienced guy who's been to decision numerous times with world-class guys and made it all the way. So that's an interesting pick, Danny, to go with decision, but pick heavily by decision. That's interesting, and that's why we like you, Danny.
Well,
you have a different look on everything, and you're right most of the time, but we'll see.
Remember, Luigi's coming down to 170 from 185, and I saw him. He's not a small 170er.
But if you go ahead.
I don't know if he's gonna. Is there any worry that he's not gonna make 170, or it's gonna tax him cutting that weight?
None at all. If you read the Knuckle Junkies interview with him before he went to California, he was being very honest. He was enjoying the St. Louis living, beer and ribs and having fun in a new city, and he didn't have any problem making that weight. I think Chris walks around at about 85 or 90 now, and I think Luigi walks around at about 95. So I don't think you're going to have any issue. We saw Luigi walking around a lot bigger before, but he's already trimmed down. When you saw him at the fights on the 24th for the face-off with Chris on the announcement, he looked amazingly different than he did, just around here a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm. This is probably maybe Stump's first fight that, arguably he's going in as the underdog.
Probably, yeah. Maybe Sal Woods too. He might have been the underdog. Yeah. Sal's got a lot of experience.
True. Yeah.
But now you see Sal moving to 55. So Sal's a tweener too, where Luigi is that tweener on the 85 to 70. We still look at Chris as the tweener between 70 and 55. So, I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I think it's hats off to Chris for wanting a big fight and taking this one. I think they were extremely happy when I called and offered it to them. And it's something they were looking for. it's Luigi's not looking past Chris Heatherly. He's seen him fight. He saw him fight Garrett, and he was very impressed and made a lot of flattering remarks on the Knuckle Junkies follow up to that fight. And so he knows Chris is tough, but if he can get in there and get a good test with his win he just had, whoever wins is going to come defend the belt in September. So you never know who I got up my sleeve for the winner of this one in September. That'll be interesting. But no, we're moving, man. I mean, we're trying to do everything we can. We're going to have the biggest production we've ever done. We're going to have the nicest light setup we've ever done. We're going to be doing 3 or 4 camera shoots. We're filming backstories now and talking to guys and getting interviews and really trying to put together a good product that we can pitch our region and our fighters and build it up, you know. And the same thing we're doing, you know, Rob Zabilski and the other half of this company's down in Central America and Colombia doing big things. They've got several projects they're working on. They just had a fight with, you know, for the amateur national team out of Colombia, and they're going to be fighting other Latin American nations and then fighting the U.S. team. And we're looking to develop pros down there, take some guys down there. So there's a lot going on. It's an exciting time to, in a weird market that we've got and the weird business that we're in. We're trying to still grow and expand in this tough economy and keep tickets affordable for everybody. I mean, we're going to end up with 14 fights, 8 of them pro, and you can get in the door for $25 and sit in a chair. You know, have a seat and everything, $25. How do you beat that?
Well, Jim, we're kind of rounding third here. I know a lot of people probably don't know, but you have a little bit of a fighting background, fighting career. Can you kind of give us the Wikipedia version of your kind of background?
This is from that goofy. I knew that was going to come up tonight. I threw that thing up as a goof just to get guys a laugh, and no, it's not a mullet, I said, and it wasn't my was spiked. One of Danny's friends asked me today if I just come out of like the beauty parlor just before the picture or whatever. No, for us guys, it was boxing and kickboxing. There wasn't any MMA back then, and I kickboxed like everybody else kickboxed and got to fight all over the country and had fun at it, but it wasn't near as organized as it is now for MMA. The talent pool wasn't as big, and no, I had fun. If I had my dreams when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and fight Marvin Hagler for the boxing middleweight title of the world, but I'd have been a little young and a little underskilled. So, no, it started in boxing, and I was a martial artist for a long time, and then just went into kickboxing. So,
the pick was great with you and your red, white, and blue D. I mean, the mullet.
You know what? It's a windbreaker, Danny. No, there's a company called Atomics, OTOMIX, and they used to sponsor a lot of karate and kickboxing guys in the day. And I don't know if it was Joe Lewis or who made that red, white, and blue thing popular, but that's what they sent me, so that's what I wore. You know, I got it in the mail, and they sent me a whole package of sponsor stuff, and so I put it on gladly.
Well, Jim, before we go here, somebody from the chat room threw up an interesting proposition. Matt Ricehouse versus Justin Lawrence in September. Can you make it happen, Jim?
Can I make that happen? Wow. Who is that wrote that? I don't know. Yeah, anyway, I have no idea. First of all, would I like to see that fight? That'd be a great fight, but I don't know that it would happen for a couple of reasons. One is those guys are probably out of our price range still, coming off of where they're just coming out of, and we're still a growing market. You know, we can do some of that, but boy, that'd be a big one to pull off. I'd love to have it. Yeah. That's for sure.
Is Lawrence back?
If I can, I will.
Is Lawrence back in Missouri? Last I heard, he was out in California still.
What is it?
He was down. I know he was. He was tweeting from the the soccer game down at Busch Stadium. I know he was down there from that. So I don't know if he's, back. Which which I heard people say. Some people say, it may be good for him to get back under with his dad and get some more tutelage from Benny.
Well, one thing I do know is that both of those guys would be looking for a win, and to fight the kind of caliber opponent that the other one is, they sure want a good payday for it.
Surely.
And I wouldn't begrudge them that. So I imagine that fight could happen, but it'd probably be on a bigger stage than we're at right now. But who knows? I mean, this is real important to me that we fill the house in June so that we can do 4 fights a year like this, because our region needs it. I mean, truthfully, if any one of the two bigger promotions go under or don't choose to do pro shows anymore, we'll suffer, because half of the guys in town seem to fight at Shamrock and the other half seem to fight for us, with occasional ones at the other casino. And really, for both guys, or both groups of fighters, we don't want to see either one of them go down. We want to see them do well and give these guys a chance to get their fights in advance. I mean, my goal's always been not to be the UFC, but to be a great springboard, a great regional promotion that these guys can get what they need. So we need to just go ahead and support the show. What I'm really hoping is that the fighters that aren't fighting, that all say they're fighters, the amateurs, want to go out and watch these pros, see what Danny can do, see what Luigi, Chris can do. I mean, see what they need to do to get to their level, and bring their friends. If people just need to tell people about it, and we'll fill the house. I have no doubt about it.
Well, Jim, it's great having you on as always, and maybe we can touch base as we get a little bit closer to the 22nd. And again, man, it's always nice talking to you.
I appreciate what you guys do. I mean, keeping the word out. It's a different show than last week. Where's John?
Yeah,
it's a little bit more subdued.
Yeah. It's not quite as colorful, I guess is the word I'll use. But he'll be around. I guess he's tending to minky things. I don't know. He's maybe clubbing a woman over her head and dragging her back to the cave by her hair. I
thought maybe you guys had him in timeout. He's the only guy that talks more than me, so it's probably good to not have him and I on the same show, because no one gets a word in.
Well, Jim, thanks so much as always, man, and we'll be in touch.
It's true. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
All right. Take care. Well, Jim Jenkins, everybody. He's always, matchmaker extraordinaire. Dan, you fought for Jim numerous of times.
Yep, he's gave me my pro debut when I could not find a fight. I was having a lot of issues finding a fight with my goofy YouTube jiu-jitsu that everybody talks all the shit on because I don't train in the gi. And they love it that I don't train in the gi, and they think I'm the junkiest jiu-jitsu guy around. But I pull off shit. So maybe it is YouTube jiu-jitsu. Maybe it is I watch a lot of DVDs. But maybe I can absorb shit that you guys can't.
Not a fan of the gi?
I trained in the gi for a long time. I trained at a strictly gi school. I loved it when I did it. But in my opinion, gi does phenomenal things for positioning. I don't like it for MMA because, this is my opinion, you may have a differing opinion, and I don't give a fuck if you do. If you're doing jiu-jitsu and you're doing it in MMA, you're throwing submissions up. If there is a gi there, it takes away the slippage, the friction. You can hold people down with the gi. You can go for gi chokes. When there's slippage in there, and there takes a little bit of the fun out. In gi, you kind of have to. You're not allowed to do a lot of the submissions that I enjoy doing. Does it make you better in the gi? Yes and no. If you're gonna do sport jiu-jitsu, you have to do it in the gi because it's points. If you're doing MMA, if I could throw you in a triangle and not finish the triangle, just punch the piss out of you, I'm going to do that. So my triangle doesn't have to be perfect, but if I can punch you while I'm holding you in a half-ass triangle that I can hold tight enough where you can't slip out, then I'm happy. So that's my opinion on the gi, and I do a lot of catch wrestling also to add to that. And I do watch a lot of YouTube. I do do a lot of DVDs, watch a lot of DVDs. So I add a little bit to my game every day. I watch at least one a day. So I like it, and I think it works for me. It may not work for everybody else. I do say go to a gym. Don't watch the DVD. So
that could be a great topic for another show. See if we get people calling in the pro gi versus.
well, I'm gonna get shit for that, but I don't give a fuck because that's what I.
Well, we're coming down to the tail end of the show, and I think we're going to close things out with a quick visit to a gentleman we've been talking about this evening, Bo Kunz. See if Matt can get him on.
Hello?
Is that Bo playing video games?
Yeah, I'm trying to get on here.
We can
Bo
hear you.
Kunz,
Where's it at?
we can hear you.
Is my video not working, guys?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. My video must not be working, though.
All right, we don't need to see you anyways.
Good deal.
Gotcha. Well, Bo, you're on live at KJ Live with me and Dan O'Connor. Going to close things out here with you. Congratulations coming off the big win over the weekend. Your last amateur fight, huh?
Yeah, it was a good night Friday. Got to exploit some of my my new form of the art of jiu-jitsu and some real good wrestling, and it was a good night for us. Looking to move on.
One thing we were talking about earlier was you and Clay Mitchell not touching gloves. What was the background in that?
Oh, I don't know that there was any background in it. There was a little, I got some questions from Knuckle Junkies, just a little background so for the write-up, and he came off with that I didn't have heart, and then he didn't want to touch gloves. From a guy that shook my hand and told me good luck walking through the hall to a guy that didn't want to touch gloves. I don't know what his deal was. I guess it was just something that, when there's 180, 200 people standing there rooting for you, I guess he got caught in the moment and realized the sportsman of the fight, because at the end of the fight, he did come up to me right in the cage and was like, I told you I wasn't going to go to sleep. I never talked to him, but I give him all coots because, I did have to put him to sleep. He was a tough opponent.
So we're talking about the fight. Me and you were talking about after the fight. You were asking about some of the stuff you did wrong and what I thought, and I gave you my opinion that you kind of came in there you didn't come out in usual Bo fashion. You didn't go in there to knock the guy's head off in the first round. You kind of a little more tentative. And we found out why right after the fight. I knew exactly why as soon as you announced you were going pro. But you have anything to say about it?
Yeah, I just didn't want to get caught up. And you guys know that I've been a wild striker for a long time. I got a tough chin, and, they say I've got some brick hands. So it's what it is. So I didn't want to get caught in a mess of things and, have to worry about a setback or anything of Clay Mitchell to worry about, because where I've came from and where I'm at now and where I'm going to go is the sky's the limit. I just got to continue to work hard. The guys at my gym continue to push me. I'm going to give a shout out to Alp, who's fighting this Friday, and then you got Zach Freeman fighting Legacy here in June. All those guys I train with daily, and they just push me and they drive me, whether it's what it is, from jiu-jitsu to wrestling to boxing to sparring, just picking you up in the gym. It's a family there. I've learned a lot. I'm continuing to grow. I'm a sponge, and that's what I'm there for. And those guys, Sampo and all of them just coming in and just, they set the bar, and it's real easy to just go in and do my thing. I have a great team, and that's what it is.
Well, Bo, we were talking a little jiu-jitsu before you got on, and of course, there's the IBJJF Worlds this weekend. You've kind of you've talked about it before, but you've kind of recently embraced the BJJ, and just kind of talk about that that transfer, that acceptance, or.
Well, going into a jiu-jitsu background of under Mike Rogers and Rodrigo Vaghi, Mike expects you guys to exploit things that you never done and learn the art of things, and it's something that I've really taken to, and I like it. I respect it. I think it's necessary in my everyday training, and I embrace it, and it's made me humble. Yeah, I left my ego at the door because every day I go in there and I get my ass kicked by blue belts, white belts, brown belts, black belts, from pros to amateurs. There's good days, bad days. I mean, it's just been a humbling experience switching over. I'm never ever gonna forget what the Southside gave me and being tough, but it's definitely humbling being there and experience what I have.
Were you reluctant to kind of embrace BJJ before, or just
No, it's something that's it started with really my brother and wrestling and burgers and Mark Botendry before he left and just really came up. I had a fight with Ryan Sutton coming up, and Mark came to me and helped me out a little bit just to help me out because he knew that I was just a tough guy taking a wrong fight. And from that point on, I never wanted to get beat by somebody. And I never wanted to be as good as a wrestler because I didn't want to be considered a wrestler. But I just wanted to embrace what I didn't know. And ever since then, I've built this. And when I went to St. Charles, I exploited it. There's no need to get punched in the face, it's unnecessary.
I do think we've seen a new Bo Kunz since you went to St. Charles MMA. I mean, from where you were to where you became, I mean, I don't think you would have asked the question you asked me about what did I do wrong a year ago when you were at Southside. You asking that is some of the things that the pros do. So that kind of that already gives you the kind of level that the pros are at. They, even though they won and choked the guy unconscious in the third round, they're like, what did I do wrong in the fight? You're still looking and trying to tweak it to make sure you're the best person you can be. So, I mean, that was something when you asked. I was kind of surprised and kind of proud to see you turn the corner of the MMA guy that you are now.
Yeah, it's been a real blessing, Dan. It really has. From a guy that was 252 pounds, and I hadn't talked to my brother in 3 years, and went to his first cage fight, and then really wanted to change my life as far as my health, and then as far as like getting into shape, and then going to Mike Green and taking fights, and where it's became 2.5 years, it's going to be 3 years later, and I still have a lot of time in the sport. As far as I'm in no rush for my pro debut. I'd like to make it this year. It's knowing that that's our next step, but just really taking in some more of the sport and really putting my time in, because a lot of guys think that after 2 or 3 years of doing something, they've put their time in, and it's like a business. It's like anything else. If you're really going to put your time in, you're not going to own a business for 3 years and think it's going to pay you back. I mean, you got to continue to build, work every day, learn new things. I mean, it's up to you where you want to take it, but there's a lot of high guidance where I'm at right now, and I believe that's going to take me to the best that I can be. And whether it be 2 years from now or 4 years from now or even 10 years from now that we're talking about this interview, I mean, the sky's the limit from here, guys. It's just great.
Well, Bo, this is kind of a tough question, but maybe this may help some other guys. But when somebody switches gyms and stuff, I mean that's always kind of a tough thing. And did you get much backlash? And just kind of how did you deal with when you leave one gym to go to another? And I mean I'm sure that had been a tough decision. And I mean, can you just kind of shine a little light on that?
Yeah, it's something that it's a real bad thing here in the area, because it's all about who here, and we all kind of need to be working together a little bit more
Yeah.
than we do. I'm not saying kiss each other's asses and everybody go back to just where there's no competition in the area and pushing each other, but I'm talking I don't know, it's a weird deal for me because I came up under Mike Green, and the guy came from old school where 11 years ago, I mean, he was 100 and almost 200 pounds, or he might even been heavyweight, and was just fighting anybody and everybody. And, that was what he was brought up under. And as a coach, I don't think, even looking back, he might even be listening to this podcast, and I'll tell you that he may even say to this, as a coach of me, he brought me up under that. And, I mean, it was the fight every Saturday night, in or out of shape. I mean, they made the calls. Whether it reflect on my record or who I was, we showed up and we fought, man. A lot of fights, a lot of hard fights, a lot of good fights, good and bad. I mean, it was a great deal, but as far as switching with gyms, it was so hard because I was so humbled to have him just give me everything, and then knowing where I needed to go with my pro career and where I needed to change levels and what I needed to work on. I didn't want to leave and leave him behind as I didn't need him. It was more of I just needed to grow for me, and a lot of guys don't understand that sometimes you gotta it's not such burning a bridge is so much as you got to grow for you and go out and get you. And if you can't get it where you're at, it's not such as ruining friendships or whatever. It's you got to prosper. And I think that I've made the right decision. I believe that I mean, after a while, that me and him are under the understanding, and he's proud of me, and I hope when I make my pro debut that I can get back to working with him. And as far as as my hands coach, because I always felt comfortable throwing hands with him and stuff. So I would hope that he'd be in my corner for my pro debut. And as far as the bad blood with all the guys, they just should some people just need to sit back and chill and there's got to be some respect level, and some guys don't have it. They're never going to have it. You can't teach it to them years later, and it's a bad deal for the sport and everybody.
Do you know what weight you'd like to fight at pro or?
Well,
or
you guys all know this how it goes. If you can see a weight, if you see a weight on a scale and you're walking around with that, then your coach thinks you're at the next weight class. So I'm not going to say where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because I've done a whole lot of drinking and eating over the weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm back up to 200 pounds. So I think 185 is a good pro debut for me. A couple fights at 85, and as I progressively get ready for faster hands and faster movement, and I continue to get leaner and stay healthy as I was to drop weight, then I think 170 would be a great fit for me.
Absolutely. That would be an interesting weight class for you, especially. Have you seen 170 in a decade?
No, Dan, that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. Such an ass, man.
Shit, I used to be a fat kid too. You were a big guy when you started in MMA. So 170, I mean, you're leaning out and you're looking better and better. And I mean, the best Bo Kunz we've seen was, I mean, even though it wasn't the fight I was hoping for, you were shredded out. We could actually see your muscles, and you're doing jiu-jitsu now. So, I mean, 170 would be a good weight class for you. I mean, you might actually have some abs there too. That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I got your abs. Well, yeah, I think that would be the best. I mean, the healthiest as far as like when I'm in the best fight shape. I think 170 as far as my body tone, everything put it together is where I need to be. I'm 5'10". That's I don't have height, so at 170, 5'10", and I've always worked my ass off, guys, and Brick Lane and Tuck Point, and just being my brother said it about Tony Saunders once, and he's always called me this. He said we're country tough, and you just can't get that shit other than working hard, because that's where it came from. I don't go to the gym. I never lifted weights my whole life. You hear that, guys? All you guys out there pumping weights 2 days a week, blow me. I run, and I run. I run 3.1 miles in 25 minutes. I did that shit not even at the blink of an eye. Blow me, you weightlifters. I never lifted weights ever. That's for John Mankey.
Weights aren't all that much, but they can help you. You can do some functional shit. I don't do weightlifting the way that everybody else does. I don't do curls in the mirror like I see at the gym every day, but I'll do battle ropes, I'll do kettlebells, that kind of shit, functional weight that will make you stronger, but nothing.
Yeah, if you're not blessed like Bo or somebody with this natural strength, some guys need it,
No, it's called working. It's called when you're 18 years old, you stepped up to the plate and you went to work as a man. And for the last, 11 years, I busted my ass carrying bricks and mortar. It sucks, but it's a way of life.
That's the Jake Collier kind of workout.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Carry steel all day.
I seen it. I seen a great picture of him holding up a cask and a cold beer on the back of a 4-wheeler. That's some good shit right there. Well, hey guys, it's been fun, and I'm glad you guys had me on. I wish that Mankey was on here so I could talk some shit to him, and I think it's been a great podcast. If you guys need me to impersonate John Mankey, you guys just let me know. Dan O'Connor.
You fill in for him?
Yeah, you guys want to break down some jiu-jitsu?
Are you sober, Bo?
Fuck no, I'm not sober. I wanted to give a big shout out to Danny O'Connor, who drove me around all Friday night. Thank you, sir.
No problem, buddy. I had to deal with your drunk brother, but I've been there, so.
Well, Bo, thanks a lot for popping in and helping us close out the show.
All right, guys. You guys have a good night. And knuckle junkies.
That's right. See ya.
Got asked on the chat if I thought Alp was going to be good. If Alp that's in the gym shows up, I don't see anybody beating him. The kid's a fucking monster. I've said it before. We watched Sampo run through Banuelos like he was standing still, and I think Alp is going to be able to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, just for those of you who don't know, Alp Oskilic from St. Charles MMA will be on Legacy FC 20. It'll be on Access TV, where he is fighting Antonio Banuelos, who Alp's teammate, Josh Sampo, had beaten, I guess it was probably late 2012. And so now Alp is getting his crack at him, and will be on TV. And everybody, if you can't watch it, make sure to DVR it.
Banuelos is, if anybody that follows MMA, Banuelos was Chuck Liddell's midget sidekick for a long time. Every time Chuck Liddell was on camera, you had Banuelos just standing there right next to him. So, I really think Alp is just going to put on a show, and I think he's probably going to finish him. He hits harder. He's going to be – I'm turning to Mickey now. He hits harder. He has better wrestling. His Greco is unbelievable. He used to throw me to – when I grappled with him, he threw me to the air, and I would have time to go, what the fuck was that, before I hit the ground. It's freaky. So I do think he's going to run through.
Yeah, I kind of learned a little bit today about I guess his punching power, which I didn't know that was part of Alp's arsenal. But
you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
The way he hits, it fucking hurts. He's had me step in potholes more than once. He hits really hard. Banuelos is not going to be ready for that kind of punch. If Alp comes out the way I've seen him and the way I've dealt with them, and he's going to hit him, he's going to hurt him. Especially with those little gloves on, he hits really fucking hard. And he's got good Muay Thai too. His boxing coach is, I know his boxing coach. His boxing coach is a great guy. His Muay Thai coach, he trains like a pro fighter. Not a lot of guys train like he trains. So that's my take on it. I think he's going to run through Banuelos probably first, second round if he shows up the way that I see him train in the gym. But I don't see him losing regardless.
Yeah. Well, and that's also a nice segment. We're published our first of part one of three stories on Alp. Interesting guy who comes from Turkey to the United States to wrestle, and from there has flourished into who some consider he's ranked one of the top 100 flyweights in the world. So there'll be more on Alp tomorrow and Friday, hopefully, if I can get my shit together. But
Sarah, photographer extraordinaire, says we're well below our quota of fucks.
yeah.
If you really need me to say fuck a bunch more times, I can do it. Mickey's not here, so I need to step up my fuck game, I guess.
That's what she said. On that note, hey, that's we're going to wrap things up. But of the list of good things, the IOC did announce today that wrestling has made the short list for the 2020 Olympics. So, hopefully, wrestling is still living and breathing, and it hasn't took its last breath. And for that, we're going to sign off. It's been another fun ride here at KJ Live. We'll be back at our usual Monday slot next week with guest unknown, but hopefully, if fingers crossed, it'll be someone good and someone really tough. So, adios. Dan, any last words?
Fuck.
There we go. Fuck it, fuck.